Hello. Thank you for joining us today for 16 Strong, Thrive's annual celebration of regional collaboration. I'm Bridget Massengill, President and CEO of Thrive Regional Partnership. I am delighted that you are here today as we celebrate Thrive's 5th birthday this very month as an independent incorporated company that inspires responsible growth in the tri-state 16-county Greater Chattanooga region. We're going to kick off the program this morning by first reviewing the accomplishments in our impact areas of community prosperity, transportation and infrastructure, and natural treasures that would not be possible without you, our countless volunteers. Then, to celebrate our 5th birthday, we'll gather with a few founding members of Thrive, moderated by a special guest of Thrive's, to reflect on how far we've come as an organization and as a region since the very beginning. We'll end with a very emphasizing this, y'all, special tribute to this region, called out by familiar faces and voices that you've come to know throughout the years of collaborating as a region. You will not want to miss this. Thank you to our trustees for their leadership this year, our sponsors for making today's program happen, and to you for joining us and for powering Thrive's mission to inspire responsible growth. Enjoy the program. 2021 has marked another year living and working in a new era. At Thrive Regional Partnership, we are well positioned to reach more communities and people across the region virtually and face-to-face. This year, we congratulate our thriving communities on building momentum in a world changed by the pandemic. We celebrate Eastridge, Tennessee for completing the Thriving Communities program. Even virtually, the team was dedicated to learning from diverse voices, embracing its distinct sense of place and community identity. The state of Tennessee granted $50,000 of funding to 5 communities in Southeast Tennessee: Athens, Cleveland, Ducktown, Decatur, and South Pittsburgh, so they can continue to build upon the strategic plans they designed during our foundational Thriving Communities placemaking program. The tri-state region continues to be a global hub for the logistics and supply chain industry. In August, stakeholders convened in Collegedale, Tennessee for Thrive's Freight Forum, featuring an informative discussion about a top industry challenge, a lack of truck parking. To help this region navigate complex transportation challenges, we announced a new research partnership with Georgia Tech that will create the Greater Chattanooga Freight Hub. This open source data platform will support government and industry leaders in making informed infrastructure decisions at the community and regional level. Research remains at the core of our work in broadband infrastructure and equity as well. This summer, we partnered with the Sewanee Summer Data Lab to create an interactive map that shows internet availability alongside broadband assets such as libraries, which could serve as critical hubs for internet access and digital learning opportunities. Alongside momentum in our communities, we are seeing steady progress in the conservation of the region's natural landscape. Using the Cradle of Southern Appalachia blueprint as a guide, the Open Space Institute, a national conservation organization, announced a $5.25 million fund for landscape conservation in the tri-state region. To connect regional landowners to this effort, we partnered with the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga's IGT lab to build Farm Connect. This user-friendly tool connects landowners with the information they need to build best practices in sustainable agriculture and land management. Moving ahead, we look forward to jumping off the screen and back into our communities, designing inclusive approaches that provide authentic connections for our partners all across the region. Thank you to our partners that have made 2021 a success. We look forward to all that next year has in store. It is now an honor and a privilege for me to be able to introduce to you our moderator that is going to moderate a really exciting and impressive panel here in just a moment. Greg Dale is a founding principal with McBride Dell Clarion. This is a team of industry-leading general planners, and in Greg's case, with over 40 years of planning experience and expertise. This includes comprehensive plans, regional plans, growth management plans, land use regulation, citizen outreach programs, planning for historic areas. I could go on and on. Greg is also a co-author to the Citizen's Guide to Planning and the Planning Commissioner's Guide, both publications that are being used as planning education tools for newly elected officials and planning commissioners in training. So why did we bring Greg here? You guys. Greg was here when Thrive first started, known then as Thrive 2055. Greg's firm and Greg serving as the lead consultant for the planning effort. So let me tell you a little bit about Greg. When I first got hired in to do this work, he sat me down and said, basically, this is all I'll say. Without saying it, he asked me, do you really know what you've got yourself into? He said it with complete fondness for this region, but also an awareness about some of the challenges that I had no idea were getting ready to come at us. And you know what? As you can see today, the work that Greg was able to really help steer and guide for this region has brought us to where we are today. I still remember driving into work in the morning, and I would call Greg and we would have our morning kind of brainstorm session together where we would strategize over the next activities that were coming down the pike. And I don't know what I would have done without him. Our region is stronger as a result of his leadership in guiding us through a very, very uncharted time of our Thrive's history. So there's one last thing I'll say, actually two. One of them is that he is also a grandfather to twin grandchildren. That one holds a special place in my heart. And then finally, he sent me, and I didn't bring the pen, and I meant to show you, a pen once that said, there's no crying in baseball. And I knew what he meant. There's no crying in planning. Greg is the consultant that will come alongside of you in the highs and the lows and help pull you through. And that just sums up the relationship that we've had with Greg Dale over the last 10 years. And it's my honor and privilege for him to come and moderate this panel. He was there from the beginning, and we're really excited to hear from him and to hear what he thinks as he now comes back. For him, this is about 5 years later, a little more, to see how we're doing and to reflect with some of those founding members that he got to know as well about what they've learned and where they see things going. And so just really excited about this. And I want to thank you, Greg, for being here and sharing your time with us today.
Thank you, Bridget, for that very nice introduction. I appreciate the opportunity to be involved in this discussion, and anybody that knows Bridget knows that when Bridget asks you to do something, you automatically agree to do it. So it's been a real pleasure to reconnect with folks and re-immerse myself in this, and frankly just go back and look at where the initiative has come from the time in which we were involved in it. So I'm looking forward to the panel discussion. I'm looking forward to reconnecting with old friends, and I say that with all seriousness, that one of the real special aspects of this process was the relationships that were built, and I know people there in the region feel that way about building relationships and building trust. And for me as a consultant, it was just a real pleasure to do that.
This is going to be fun to get a chance to kind of reconnect. I haven't seen Bruz in a long time, so it was good to see him and rethink about where we've come.
I was really thrilled when Bridget asked me to do this, because while I've peeked in on you all a couple of times over the last 5 years, it's been fun to reconnect with Bridget, go back and look at some of the things that you have accomplished. Very often I do projects and they're over and then I never hear anything about them again. So I've tried to stay in touch with Bridget a little bit over the years, but it's been fun to re-engage and see old friends and just get back to thinking about this and just looking at what remarkable progress you all have made. It's been a heck of a journey for you all, and I'm proud to have had even a small piece in that process. So why don't we start just with having each of you introduce yourselves and what you do and what your role has been in this process.
Connie, why don't you go first?
Okay, well, I'm Connie Vaughn, and I do government relations for McKee Foods. Of course, we're best known for our Little Debbie's snack cakes, but I'm chair of the Thrive Regional Partnership, and it has just been my pleasure to do that for the past few years. I'm excited to think about this is a 5-year mark. It's amazing.
Russ?
Yeah, my name is Bruz Clark. I'm the president and treasurer of the Lyndhurst Foundation, and I have been involved with Thrive since its inception. I remember clearly the day when the late Tom Ed Wilson came to me. Tom Ed was the chairman or the head of the Chattanooga Chamber of Commerce, and asked me if I would be willing to get involved in what he conceived of as some type of regional planning initiative. And I agreed immediately to serve. So I was on the Founders Committee, I was on the Steering Committee, I was on the Executive Committee, and now I'm on the Thrive Natural Treasures Committee or Task Force. So again, I've been with Thrive since its inception and watched it grow and develop and blossom, and could not be more pleased with the entire process.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. My name is Edna Varner. I am an educator, not really retired. I currently work for the Public Education Foundation, and we recruit people who didn't get a degree in education. This is just one of our programs, but have a passion for teaching. So I get to work with new teachers every day. I remember I was working in a position where I traveled a lot, working with school systems all across the United States, but I still lived here because I love this community and I will always live here. But I got a call about Thrive. And what I was asked if I would be a part of it, and I said, I travel a lot. What is it we hope to do? And what I heard then is, growth is inevitable, but tradition is so important. So what we want to do is hear from people how we can celebrate growth, but at the same time, maintain our traditions. And I said, sign me up. I will make the time. I will be in town to do that. And I am so happy for a number of reasons I'll talk about later. So happy that I did, and so glad to still be a part of Thrive.
That's great. Chuck?
Well, I'm Chuck Dobbins. At the time we started Thrive, I was Director of Corporate Assets for Shaw Industries. And anything economic development, real estate development, capital planning, all reported to my group. And I was grateful at the time that some folks from the Chattanooga Chamber, Tom Ed in particular, reached out to me and mentioned the fact that the community, the Chattanooga Chamber, was launching this initiative. Shaw Industries at that time had facilities in the majority of the 16 counties that had been defined as the Thrive region. And so it was critical to that company to say, well, we want to know what's going on. We feel like we are a regional partner, but we want to have direct engagement. So I was part of that founding group along with Edna and others. It started out to be a great experience. It continues. Today, I have my own real estate development company. And so with work in most of the counties that we do business in, that I've done in private practice now, I'm still vitally interested in what's going on with the 16 counties. And so I'm just very pleased with the work that I feel like we've been able to do. I really find it hard to believe it's been 10 years since we had those initial conversations, and then it's been 5 since we formed Thrive Regional Partnership as a separate nonprofit entity. But no, we have so much more yet to do, but excited about what we've accomplished in this first phases of our life as an organization.
Bruz, why don't you share a little bit about that early part of the story for you of when you first got involved and what you were hoping to see come out of this?
Sure, and it actually predates a little bit Tom Ed asking me to be involved with the process. Tom Ed came to us here at Lyndhurst to inquire about the possibility of funding for the chamber, and he had a number of different initiatives on his list. We don't typically get involved with conventional chamber type work. It's just not a priority for Lyndhurst, but on his pie chart, he had a little sliver and it said regional planning. And I said, ooh, what's this? And he said, well, you know, we have recruited Volkswagen to come to Chattanooga. We're in the process of trying to debrief from a intercity visit to Greenville Spartanburg to learn what the outcome has been from the development of the BMW plant. And we really think that we need to engage in a strategic planning or regional planning process to guide our future, knowing that our area will change and that we have a responsibility to take stock and to try to chart our pathway forward. You know, you mentioned Tom Ed's leadership. I think he was also courageous, and I do think that he was particularly responsible as the head of the chamber at that time to gather us together to really think about what the repercussions not only of VW would be, but also just the changes that we were experiencing at the time as we began to really have a growth spurt. So a lot of forces came together and ideas came together, and that's what really led to the launch of what is now the Thrive Regional Partnership, as I recall. I know there are different permutations and combinations of this, but that's the story as I see it.
So, Connie, what was your point of view of that from a different place in the region and a different sector of the region? What was your first involvement, and how did that come about?
Well, again, it comes back to Tom Ed Wilson, and he came and met with a group of us at McKee and shared his vision, and again talking about, you know, Volkswagen coming to our region and how that might impact and how we're going to grow smartly, and needed to get out front. And we had experience with a regional approach in Arkansas with the Northwest Arkansas Council, so we certainly knew the benefits of having a regional footprint, having communities and counties with their own identity, but yet an opportunity to work together and to approach big problems with a regional effort. So we had a little bit of knowledge about what he was talking about, a regional approach. However, we were not sure what that was going to look like here and with 3 states. And again, we didn't know how our region was going to change. We knew it was going to change. And because we are a large employer in the region, we felt like, man, we need to get on board and get engaged with this and be a part of it. And certainly Tom Ed Wilson's leadership, as Bruz alluded to, was absolutely one of the reasons we got involved was because Tom Ed Wilson asked. So even though we weren't really sure where it was going, and in the beginning it was messy and pulling all the people together and trying to iron out what the vision looked like. So I came on board on the coordinating committee, so there was a lot of work that had already been done, and so it was one of those great opportunities just to get involved early and to start meeting with some of those visionaries and start thinking about what are the key areas we need to be focused on. So it was a wonderful time for us, and I'm so glad he came and ask us to get engaged. And we've been involved ever since.
I can remember first entering into these conversations with you all, and what I remember is there was a sense that there was such a thing as a 16 county region. So Chuck, you talked about, you know, where workers at Shaw live, that you had people in all those counties, and you certainly had a big picture perspective on the education, you know, and commuting patterns and all those things. So there was that awareness, but people were not thinking as a region at that point. Maybe some people in their own worlds were thinking that way, but there was no collective sense of something called a Thrive region or a 16 county region, 3 states, 2 time zones, you know, all of the different sectors. Just talk a little bit about that journey from those beginnings to where you are now and the sense of identity that this region has. And what that's meant. So Edna, why don't we start with you, if you could?
Okay. I can tell you what impressed me from the very beginning, and our outcomes really. But I've been in lots of rooms where people were invited to share their ideas, their hopes and wishes. And we filled up multiple chart tablets and posted them on the wall. And then after those meetings, I never heard of those comments again. Nothing ever happened. And what was different about Thrive was just the determination to read every single word that was written on those charts and to hear people talk about their hopes for their own communities and their hopes for strengthening their own communities through collaboration. And the fact that 10 years later, some of those things are written on those charts are actually happened. And the ones that aren't actually happening are in the works. Sometimes I can see something we're doing that we can be very proud of, and I can almost remember the face of the person who wrote it on that chart. That's why I've actually stayed with this initiative, because it's really about doing something. It's about realizing how important growth is, and also realizing how important tradition is. And we cannot lose tradition as we are growing. As we have talked about what we want to accomplish from those many charts, several things have surfaced. One of them I remember was access to our assets, thinking about all the assets around the community that we would not be privy to if we had not all gone. And we went to those different communities. We didn't just stay in our community and fill out all those chart tablets or see people do that. We went to the other community. I went to places in this region I've never been, and I've been here my whole life. But it was just so exciting. I won't keep talking because I know Chuck has a lot to say. But the most important thing is to hope for something and wish for something and be willing to invest in it and to see it actually happen. Aspirations don't always have to be aspirations. They can be accomplishments. Chuck?
That's very well said.
How do you expect me to follow that? I mean,
Yeah.
really?
You get to go first next time, Chuck.
Well, no, it's okay. If Edna goes first, then I can say ditto sometime.
No, you've got a lot more substance than I. You've been part of it.
That is greatly debatable, Edna. But you mentioned the 16 county region, and we say it today like, well, we've always known it, but the key is we didn't always think about it that way. We certainly thought about ourselves as different communities, 3 different states. And so I think it's a major accomplishment that at least some of us, and I think more of us now over the past 10 years, and are thinking of it as a region. And the fact that that you have now had articulation agreements across state lines in higher ed. Who ever heard of that? You know, between Georgia and Tennessee, really, and so many other things. The first gathering of the law enforcement officials across state lines to talk about things that were so common to all of them.
It is a daunting task to assemble people from 16 different counties. I think it's 79 municipalities. It's over 4 million acres of land, and just inventorying that, you know, that at that scale. I mean, it was mind-boggling in a way, and being able to take what is essentially a giant funnel and taking all that information and ideas and perspectives and viewpoints and trying to get it to the neck of the funnel to where you could actually manage it was overwhelming. And I don't know about Connie, I have 9 notebooks from Thrive on my shelf, and they are jam-packed full of conversations, information, flow charts, matrices, etc. And it's all just fascinating work, but it just speaks to the volumes of work that have been done since we started to get to the point where we are today.
The idea around the notebooks, that is such a great visual, because that is true. There was so much, it was so overwhelming, and just trying to, for me, trying to figure out, you know, what's my role and how do I help? How do I bring other manufacturing viewpoints? How do I bring, as an employer, as a trucking company, thinking about, you know, we share an exit with Volkswagen, you know, what does that mean? As well as the McKee family has such strong ties to our natural environment. They're such a love for our mountains and rivers and mountain biking and all things related to the outdoors and conservation. So just thinking about, you know, where do I fit, and how can I help, and how do I absorb all of this? Some of those early meetings were very overwhelming, just getting to know people and understanding how folks had different agendas and different perspectives, and how bringing those together. So we had some really good help in the very beginning, and good, strong leadership early on. Really, the vision to bring the chambers in to make sure that the smallest of communities felt like they had a voice and had a role, and had an opportunity to contribute.
Chuck, I'd like for you to handle this one if you could. One of the things along those lines that was remarkable to me is while the Chattanooga Chamber under Tom Ed Wilson's leadership was kind of the initial visionary behind this process, it quickly expanded to include the Dalton Chamber and the Cleveland Chamber and other smaller chambers from around the region. So that kind of lack of you know, protecting turf, and that willingness to share in the benefits, particularly along economic development folks who are notoriously, you know, guarding of their resources. Just talk a little bit about that process of how we came to have that level of cooperation.
Well, and I credit Thrive, because without Thrive, the various chambers, the various economic development organizations weren't really talking. And to me, the completely unique thing is that in addition to just beginning to talk, the willingness to realize we're all better together than we are in direct total competition. I used to call it co-opetition, where we at times knew that we might have a site or an economic development opportunity in Dalton, and Cleveland might have the same one, and Chattanooga might have the same one, and Jackson County over in Alabama might have the same one, but that we were working together to try to see it landed for the region. Admittedly, you know, that let me hold my cards close to the vest, initially comes out. But we're living in an area where there's a lot of terrain challenges and not as much available land as there once was. And so the reality was we've got to start working together to make sure that we do capture these, particularly the large regional economic development opportunities, because not all of us are going to have the site that's available to really get that done. And so it does take some open-mindedness.
It amazes me today that the 3 or 4 originally key initiatives that we landed on are still relevant today and are still the things we should be focused on. I am convinced that launching GCEP, that was, a huge success, and launching that to separate that from our work. We can talk about that later, but today, those 3 main things we're working on are the right things to be working on. And it's amazing to me that back then, all that early work, all that messiness, that wrangling together, what are the things we should be focused on? Community input, the surveys, all of that stuff led us to those key initiatives, and that those are still the right things for us to be working on today is just truly amazing.
So, were there any moments in the process, either early or middle or late, that were kind of the aha moments for you when you realized this was not just another this was not just another meeting of putting newsprint on the wall and and recording things, but this was an effort that was going to succeed and get something done? What was that kind of moment for each one of you? Edna?
I tell you, the aha moments for me were people, meeting people, hearing their stories, and then as those words on those charts began to become reality, we can do this. And that, I think that was the spirit. This is what we want. We can do this. And you start with small steps. And what we did early on and continue to do is when any neighborhood in the region is doing something, we go. And it's hearing the people talk about their pride in accomplishment and seeing that pride on display. So the aha moments for me are the moments when people talk about the difference this initiative has made.
Bruce?
Yeah, I think early on, Thrive made a sincere effort to meet people where they are or where they were, depending on which time frame we're talking about. But one of the joys that I experienced early on was getting in the car with Tom Ed and going to various county seats to meet with local governmental officials or people who were known as leaders in their community. We went to every county seat, not just myself, but Connie and others. There was a delegation and we drove around. We also had some of the early meetings that you were involved with, Greg, in different places. And I know we met in Alabama, we met in Georgia, and we met in Tennessee. So again, being thoughtful about who all was involved and respectful of their places, and a genuine desire to learn more about those places.
I'll get a little more specific in an area and say, what about an aha moment of getting the Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee Departments of Transportation together, or as far as I know, the first time, to talk about how our transportation needs across the region impact each other, and the ability to seek funding together from the federal government to improve the things that do have an impact on us. So, the aha moment is we've got to do something together, Georgia and Tennessee, and certainly Alabama's part of that over with 24 and 59, to make sure that we are getting our people to their jobs and to their homes, and our goods to and from the places that they need to go successfully for us to continue to grow. And so my aha moment was the ability to actually convene and get three states together to talk about something as important that we fight over as transportation needs and transportation funding, and actually try to cooperate to get the right thing done across state lines.
We have various, I guess, dichotomies in this region, rural, urban, maybe some economic differences, racial differences, what have you. But I think Thrive has demonstrated that we're mostly alike and we mostly have common ground. And that really is rooted in place, and it's rooted in connections. It's, Connie and her group are a great example. While McKee may be located up around Collegedale, their tentacles are deep and wide, and somebody who lives in Fort Payne may work at McKee and depend on McKee for their livelihood. And that interconnectedness can be demonstrated in numerous ways. We're all tied together. It's like John Muir said, tug on any strand of a web and you'll find it connected to the universe, or something to that effect. I think I paraphrased it, but it's true. And I think Thrive has been really good at understanding those interrelationships and cultivating those.
If you were to speak to a version of yourself that's 25 right now, and you would try to get them interested in this, what would you say to them in terms of that future need for young leadership?
So we're in the middle of our board nominations as we speak. And one of our key objectives through that is that each board year, we bring on new leadership that can bring the new ideas, can bring the new energy, and can be the next generation of leaders of this organization. And so and it's only been a few years since I was my 25-year-old self, but as I look back at that, one of the things I would encourage the generations behind us is your community of the future for your children and grandchildren is only going to be as good as your personal willingness to commit yourself to improvement of the area, and spending time on that, investing personally in your time to learn and be involved is going to be critical to this region being what you want it to be for the future generations. And so I encourage, get involved, look into what we're doing, raise your hand. Don't wait for someone to tap you on the shoulder. Raise your hand and say, I'm excited about this and I want to be involved in some way, whether it's natural treasures or community development or transportation and infrastructure or education. Let us know. That's a key thing for us as we go forward.
Let me just ask you this: Is there anything I should have asked you that I didn't? Is there any other message that you want to deliver as a part of this?
I'll just say one other thing that I have learned in this whole experience. So much of the wonderful about community, the natural treasures, the opportunities to take on a challenge and make life better for everybody. So much of it is like the natural treasures right outside your door. And in this experience of Thrive, in this journey of Thrive, we have learned so much about what's right outside our door that we could have access to improve the quality of life. What is so available just because we convened a group of people and said, let's try to solve a problem together instead of trying to solve it separately. Sometimes you think that achieving goals requires a lot of bureaucracy, and the problem you want to solve is so enormous, and it is enormous if you're trying to solve it by yourself. But if you're trying to solve it with a group, when you're trying to solve it as a region instead of an individual county, it just becomes so much easier and exciting not just easier, but exciting to have that colleagueship, that collaboration, and to get things done that some people may have thought were impossible. So that has been important to me, just learning how close we are to solutions, how close physically we are to solutions, and just how close we are idealistically to solutions if we come together and just believe we can.
Greg, I will say again, Edna does a great job of bringing out the great truths of what we've been about. In a time in our country where it seems that every news cycle comes with divisiveness and negativism, Thrive has just been such a breath of fresh air that we see across community lines, county lines, state lines, people come together for common good.
This process has really been an affirmation for me of the uniqueness of our place and our good fortune to live here. It has also been illustrative of how wonderful our people are and how much I enjoy getting out into the outlying counties and being with other people. Again, for the last 5 years, I would have to say that my connection to Thrive and the larger throngs that it has attracted has been a great privilege, a pleasure, and a joy. I also wanted to mention the staff. I don't think we could have a better staff at Thrive at this particular moment. Tremendous people, creative people, fun to be around, and most of them are a little younger than I am, and I truly appreciate that as well. New blood, new thoughts, but that passion and energy about being here and doing the best that we can do to make this the best place that it can be.
So one of the other things that I really want to make sure that that people that are learning about Thrive early on know is that our individual communities have gained positive things from the collaboration of Thrive. And I'll use Dalton, our example, one of our examples. We have a number of examples that I can cite, but I'll use one that is the most visible in our community. We were one of the early Thriving Communities participants. We came out of, as the world knows, a flooring recession during the Great Recession. Our community was struggling, our downtown was struggling, and the idea came forth that we needed a living room for our people to gather and feel good about each other differently. A initial gift from one of Thrive's partners, seed money, helped us begin a park in downtown that created the thought process from a great philanthropist in our community, Ms. Jean Burr, that produced another $1 million to produce a downtown park, outdoor performing arts center with stage. And now our city has come forth with several $100,000 to build a concession stand and restrooms. And it just kind of continues to go on. And that has become the gathering place for our community that we never had before. We had 2,000 people to an outdoor performance of Hamilton earlier this year that would have never happened without that. And so we are grateful to Thrive for the incredible investment in us as a community and the collaboration that came only through Thrive and would not have happened otherwise.
Absolutely. The relationships that we've built, the staff, again, that it amazes me that Bridget and her background, her love for this region, her skill set. I mean, what a terrific hire for Thrive. And the fact that she has stayed with us all this time has absolutely, added to our success. I would say to those that younger than me that want to preserve this region and the things they love about this region for their children and grandchildren, come on, help us, get involved. There's work to be done. We need your input. We need your perspective. The work is plentiful. And it is true. We must have the perspective of younger folks and to get involved in our community. This is an easy, fun way to do it. You'll build relationships, as Bruz said, that will last a lifetime. And we have more common interests than you think. And so regardless of what your line of work is or the things you're interested in, there's a place for you at Thrive. And we certainly could use the work. I could use the help with our work.
I think it was Hubert Humphrey, and I'll paraphrase. He said, why worry about the future? Why not try to make it the way you want it to be? And to me, that's what really Thrive is about. We have a voice in how things work out. We can't predict everything. We can't guarantee that everything will turn out the way we want it to. But if you're not involved in trying to chart your own destiny, then you truly are at the mercy of entropy. And I don't think any of us wants that. On the Natural Treasures call the other day, 2 of the 3 speakers were probably 35 or younger, which was great to see. And I think there's a tremendous talent pool out there that will replace people like Connie and myself and guide Thrive to its next peak down the road. But Greg, I wanted to ask you, you've done a lot of these kinds of things, planning sessions. What were your initial expectations, and what has really been appealing about this process to you as you have watched it unfold from afar once you were no longer involved on a contract basis?
No, those are good questions. You know, my initial expectations from 10 years ago, I remember when we got the call, you know, in a consultant world, the call is the call that says, congratulations, you were selected to be a part of this effort. And at that point, you know, I was ignorant of what was ahead of me on it. You know, we talked about the big, messy process, but the magnitude of the effort was pretty amazing. Bridget and I have talked about how we would start literally every morning together on the phone. She would call me as she was driving into work, and we would talk about what's going to happen that day. I mean, it was a pretty all-encompassing process. I think for me, looking back on it now, Bridget resent me the sustainable business plan. Bruz, you talked about your 9 volumes of 3-ring binders. I think looking back, one of the more impactful things we wrote was that little 6-page business plan. And what's remarkable about that is you all have done every single thing that's in there. But ultimately for me, you know, you all went through this. For me also, it was about building relationships. Bruz, I spent the night at your farm. Connie, we talked about the pleasures of Little Debbie's directly out of the freezer.
When we used to meet, Connie would bring me a sack full of Swiss cake rolls, which are one of my favorite Little Debbie products. I truly miss that. You know, another point I wanted to make is that we have been thoughtful and intentional about language. I think language is so important. And, you know, it took us more time, but we have really tried to articulate clearly and beautifully what this place is, what it means to all of us, its history, the colorful nature of things that have taken place here over the eons. And I think that shows in our work. And I think people gravitate towards that. And I think the documents resonate with people. So just another feature of us getting together and trying to think about what we want to say and why we want to say it and who it will appeal to and who it may turn off, because we want people to feel welcome in this process, engaged in the process, and that they have a stake in the outcome.
That's great. Those are great thoughts. And I appreciate the sentiment that while it's fun to look back on what you've accomplished and reminisce, recognizing that there's still a lot of work ahead. Maybe we'll reconvene this group for the 10-year anniversary. So I congratulations to you all, and good luck on keeping it going in the future.
Welcome back. Did y'all enjoy that? Thank you again to Bruz, Connie, Edna, and Chuck for sharing your reflections and insights with us. And again to Greg for leading this conversation today. As you can tell, there was nobody better to do that than him. So the progress that's been made in this work truly wouldn't be possible without the time and the expertise and dedication of our partners. We hope that each of you feel proud of this work that sustains the future of our entire tri-state region. So now moving ahead to 2022, we look forward to convening our regional networks, including the Regional Broadband Alliance, the Freight Mobility Coalition, and the Natural Treasures Alliance with in-person and virtual engagement options. And we also look forward to 2 special projects that are coming down the pike in the coming year. The development of the Greater Chattanooga Freight Hub data platform that we are launching in partnership with researchers from Georgia Tech and Cleveland State Community College, as well as the launch of our Thriving Communities Natural Treasures program, designed to enable local community members to co-create thoughtful plans that enhance community resilience using the natural world around them. If you are interested in investing in Thrive or participating in any of our collaborative work, please visit thriveregion.org and contact us. Our team will be in touch to see how we can best work together. I want to close by saying we're so grateful to our sponsors for making 16 Strong happen this year, including Lift Media Group, First Volunteer Insurance, Croy Engineering, CBL Properties, Costa Media Advisors, and North Georgia EMC. We also acknowledge all of our investors from across the region whose investment in Thrive keeps the lights on, the people going, and the mission moving forward. I also want to give a little shout out to Shannon Millsaps on our team. She has really done an amazing job pulling together all of these pieces to produce today's event, and to Rhett Bentley for navigating all of the videography and all of that great work. And so much has gone into today. Couldn't thank either of them enough for the work they've done on our Thrive team. Many thanks to each of you for playing a part in strategic collaboration around issues that impact the future and quality of life in our region. Since its inception, Thrive has been dedicated to just that, serving as a regional compass, powered and guided by you, the citizens of local communities across the tri-state. And just as I promised, you did not want to miss how we're going to close out today. So get ready, buckle up. You're going to hear from some amazing people, and you're going to hear and see this amazing tribute to our 16 county region. We appreciate you because together we are 16 strong.
Welcome to our region, where the woods are magical and the waters are clean.
From battlefields to main streets, history and culture runs deep.
Welcome to a region where opportunities abound.
Where industry excels in the heart of the Southeast.
It's a place that draws people in.
A place where people stay for opportunity and quality of life.
In this corner, where Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee meet.
Growth is exciting because it is inspired.
Because people, you and me, we play a role in the future of this place.
Today, we make decisions to ensure a legacy for this place.
And the generations that will inherit it tomorrow.
So that our children
and our children's children
may have a chance and a place to thrive.
In this region, we lead by building relationships
and having real conversations
across industries, county lines, and state lines.
We act locally,
but think regionally.
Where we ask tough questions about the environment, infrastructure, and economic prosperity.
And together, we envision bold solutions to our challenges.
We build common ground between people and sectors.
And build partnerships for bigger impact.
Because the strength of the individual is multiplied by collaboration.
This region is full of diverse history, people, and nature.
These authentic voices will shape the place we leave behind.
We celebrate our common values and shared future.
by embracing one another's perspectives and trusting each other.
And that trust propels us forward.
We are powered by optimism and led by empathy.
As a region, we build upon our strengths.
We are a region of 3 states and 16 counties,
where we celebrate distinctiveness and communicate across boundaries.
Though we are 16 counties apart, together we are 16 strong.
Conversation, connection, and collaboration helps all of our communities thrive.
We're collaborative leaders, thinkers, stewards, visionaries, and doers.
Setting the table for a vibrant, sustainable future.
Join us.
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 Join
Join us.
us.
Join us. Join us.
Join us as we inspire responsible growth. Welcome to the Thrive Regional Partnership.